Hey, how's it going, guys? It's Nate here. And Skyrim is not what I think most people would consider a small game. By the contrary, The Elder Scrolls V quickly earned itself a reputation for being a rather large RPG shortly after its release on that November day. But 7 years later, the community's come a long way. With literal millions of collective hours, it's easy to assume that there's not much left to be discovered in Skyrim. Every nook and cranny explored, each side quest completed 100 times over, and all the Easter eggs have been discovered. Seems logical to think that's the case. Well, such an assumption may not be entirely correct, as much of the Elder Scrolls V's player base just might have quite a lot to uncover. So sit back and relax as we take a look at 5 more things you probably didn't know you could do in The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Part 18! I think. Starting off, during Skyrim's Civil War questline, regardless of which side you decided to align with, the player will have to participate in 2 large-scale-ish siege battles. One taking place at Whiterun, and another in either Solitude or Windhelm, depending on who you're fighting for. Now, during these sieges, the local population will quite reasonably be pretty freaked out, and terrified out of their minds. Most citizens can be found desperately running to their homes, or trying to escape their town totally in absolute horror. Well, if you've installed the Hearthfire DLC, and have a property located in a city that's currently going through a siege, and have children living in that home, there's an ever so small possibility that you might actually encounter them running in fear amongst the petrified locals. And they'll have some unique dialogue depending on their gender, though not too much.
I'll be alright. Please, just make it stop.
Make it stop. Please make it stop.
It's important to note that during siege battles, you'll be locked out of most homes, including your own in that given settlement. So, unless you use console commands to get inside your house, or your kids were out and about when the fighting broke out, you'll be out of luck in finding them, and getting to hear these quotes. Also, your fellow soldiers will likely be pretty disappointed in you accosting random children when you're supposed to be helping them capture a city. But hey, I guess that's their problem, not yours, right? Next on our list, before we completely move on from the theme of sieges, at multiple points throughout the Dark Brotherhood questline, you'll be sent to the City of Solitude in order to carry out a specific assassination. This happens a lot. There's the assassination of Vittoria Vici on her own wedding night, the doomed from the start assassination attempt on the Emperor's decoy while you pose as a chef, the actual assassination of the actual Emperor at the end of the guild storyline, list goes on. Point is, the Brotherhood sends you to this city quite frequently. However, if you've chosen to fight with the Stormcloaks in Skyrim Civil War, and are currently besieging Solitude as Astrid is supposed to offer you a new contract in that settlement, rather than give you the mission, the Brotherhood's leader will instead scold the player, as obviously the city's in a bit too much turmoil for a contract to be carried out, and recognizing that the impending Stormcloak assault on the city is because of you, and not allow the Dragonborn to proceed until you finish the battle and the city is back to normal.
You're responsible for the Siege of Solitude. By Sithis, this undermines all our plans. Fool! Finish that mess, and only then will we speak.
The exact inverse of this is also possible, though I believe we might have covered it somewhat recently. Wherein, while the Emperor or his cousin are in Solitude, Ulfric Stormcloak will refuse to attack the city and continue with the Civil War until they've left/been dealt with.
We're ready to march on Solitude, but the Emperor's cousin is getting married. If royal blood was spilled, all of Cyrodiil would be up in arms. We can't afford an all-out war with the Empire, so we'll bide our time for now.
We're ready to launch our attack on Solitude, but the Emperor's cousin is getting married. We can't risk attacking now, so we'll bide our time.
Coming in at number 3, Spell Absorption is one of Skyrim's more interesting magical effects. It grants the Dovahkiin a specified % chance of absorbing a magical attack used against you, and giving you all the magicka points that spell costed to cast, but none of the damage when triggered. So, for example, say you have a pair of shoes or something that grants 5% spell absorption. Every spell casted against you from now on has a 5% chance of doing no damage and just giving you the magicka the caster used to create it. Or, at least, until you take those shoes off. Well, funnily enough, it's indeed possible for the player to obtain 100% spell absorption, effectively meaning you'll no longer take magicka damage at all, period, like any of it. and every spell-based attack used against you will instead just work in your favor, allowing the Dragonborn to really just walk into a den of mages without the slightest concern in the world. Achieving this is surprisingly simple, and there's a small number of pretty straightforward methods, though it does seem as though Bethesda never really expected players to do such a thing. The easiest way, or seemingly most direct, is to activate the Antronach Stone, which grants 50% spell absorption, combine it with the Antronach Alteration Skill Tree perk, which affords an additional 30% spell absorption, bringing you to 80%, and finally equipping Mirax's robes for an extra 15%, and either his boots or gloves, which both offer 5%, bringing you to 100% spell absorption. Or even 105%. Now, this doesn't just make mages weaker against you, but also applies to dragons. So now when in combat versus a fellow Dova, any of their shout attacks will be rendered effectively ineffective against the player too. So if you're ever looking to be quasi-invincible, as it turns out, that's indeed a possibility. For 4th spot, the quest, The Man Who Cried Wolf, begins after one of Solitude's Thanes, Falk Firebeard, requests that you clear out Wolf Skull Cave west of the city. Apparently citizens have been complaining of strange noises emanating from the cavern, and it'll be your job to investigate. Falk says he thinks it's nothing, but spoiler alert, he's wrong. There's a coven of necromancers and Draugr serving them, whom you'll have to murder to death. As you enter the final chamber of Wolf Skull, you'll walk in on something very interesting though. A group of necromancers are in the middle of a ritual. Their chants suggest they're trying to summon the spirit of Potema Septim, basically an evil long-dead queen, to do their bidding. Your final objective will be to kill the leader of the ritual, and the quest will be completed. Though there's sort of a part 2 to this mission that occurs after you report back, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, normally taking out the leader of this ritual will involve you fighting your way up a tower to get to her, and then defeating a number of other Draugr and necromancers protecting her. However, it's possible to snipe this woman as soon as you enter this final chamber if you have an appropriate bow and arrow that do enough damage. It's certainly a difficult shot to make, but if you do succeed in it and manage to take out the leader of this ritual from such an incredible distance, it'll have some unique effects. For one, the quest will instantly be completed, basically saving you another large portion of the dungeon to clear, but it will also seem to relieve the Draugr of their service to the necromancers. Their spell on them will be broken, and the Draugr inside this section of the cave will turn on the remaining necromancers and start fighting them. By the way, the Draugr will usually win. Now, unfortunately, even though you seem to be the one responsible for relieving them of their servitude, the Draugr will still be very hostile to the player. But it's certainly something to watch. And finally, in Riften's Bee and Barb Inn, you can meet a man named Louis Latruche. When approached, he'll reveal that he's in a bit of a pickle. You see, he wanted to buy a great purebred horse named Frost from Sibby Blackbriar, a member of one of Skyrim's most powerful families. Sibby agreed, and Louis immediately paid half the cost of the horse up front. But before Sibby could actually deliver him the horse, he was arrested and imprisoned. Now he's got both Louis's money and the horse. Louis will request you go to Sibby and get him to tell you where the horse is, and then bring it to him. This is the basis of the quest, Promises to Keep. When you do speak to Sibby in his cell, he'll reveal one major complication. You see, aside from not wanting to give up the horse anyway, Frost doesn't technically belong to him, but it's his mother, Maven's horse. Maven is of course the family matriarch, and quite possibly the most powerful woman in Riften, and she certainly never wanted to sell the animal. So, if you do go ahead and steal Frost, she's certainly gonna come after you and Louis. Regardless, albeit with great reluctance, Sibby will still tell you where you can find the horse and its lineage papers, the Blackbriar Lodge. Go there, defeat the mercenaries guarding the perimeter, return the horse to Louis, and the quest will be completed. However, what you may not have known is that after speaking with Sibby, and listening to his omission that the horse's true owner is indeed Maven Blackbriar herself, if you've been admitted as a member of Riften's Thieves Guild, you can share this information with Brynjolf, and get to hear some unique dialogue, as he berates the player for agreeing to participate in Louis' scheme, and states that the guild won't be able to help you if you get caught in any trouble. Take a listen.
All eyes are on you, lad. Don't disappoint us. Well, lad, I'd do just as well drawing a blade across my own neck. Where did this foolish request come from? Huh. So Sibby finally got the nerve to bare his teeth, eh? Look, this sounds like a family matter, and I don't want the guild in the middle of it. You do what you want. Just don't expect us at your back when Maven has your head on the executioner's block.
And with that, we are going to wrap up. 5 more things you probably didn't know you could do in The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim Part 18. Which of what we explored in today's video did you find to be the coolest or most fascinating? And what trivial little things do you know of in Skyrim that I've yet to cover? Leave a comment down below. Thanks for watching, everyone. As always, like ratings are very much appreciated, and I hope to catch you all in my next video. Peace out, everybody.